Imagine being 16 years old and stepping off a plane into a country you've only ever seen in textbooks and realizing in that moment that your world just got bigger. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the trips that changed our lives and announcing something new that will help even more students experience that same transformation. Welcome, everybody, to Cheryl's Travel Blueprint. I am Cheryl from Nostalgic Travel, and I have two amazing guests with me today. I'm going to introduce Ale from She's a former colleague of mine, a former teacher, and we worked together and we built an exchange program together. So, welcome, Ale.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm so thankful that you were able to join us and give us some insight into the world of youth exchange. And but before we get into it, I just want to introduce Sarah as well because she's a former student who traveled with us. I don't know if it was our first trip together
It
or
was our first trip.
it was our very first exchange
Yes,
trip. So Sarah
yes,
is
it was.
a former student. Yes. So, and thank you as well, Sarah, for joining us. It means a lot. So, I don't even know how many years it's been, but we launched our student exchange program in maybe
2009.
2009. Okay.
Mhm.
And we had so many great memories, and I guess we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I decided to start the Youth Exchange Collective because I wanted to do something to help students that were not able to financially afford to go on one of these types of trips because I think it's something that every student should be able to do when before they leave high school. That's my strong belief. I think that's really important. And it needs to be accessible to all students. So that's kind of the background behind Youth Exchange Collective. So that's the why for what we are doing. So before we go too far into this, Ali, could you tell us a little bit about your background and you know your why?
Yeah, so I was a Spanish teacher for over a decade. I had the privilege of working alongside you and learning with you and doing the exchange program. I think when I think about what we're doing here, I think a lot about my own experience as a high schooler and the limited access I had, the limited opportunities that I had to travel within that time. I know I saw firsthand the value in it when we would take students every time or when students would come to us. It always was such a powerful experience. And I don't think that we ever ended a trip without it being very emotional and like in the most beautiful way, right? The happiest of tears, seeing these lifelong friendships form. And so the ability to continue to give back and help others experience that is such a privilege.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Can you tell us about a defining moment from one of our trips for you?
Oh my goodness. I think any time that we saw students where we were kind of trying to figure out, okay, how do we navigate this situation? Or we're looking at a map or we're looking at something and we ourselves are learning how to navigate through that because every trip was so unique. And then seeing a kid say, actually, no, I actually think we should do this way, or I think I've got it. And or to see them like advocate for themselves and ask, a police officer or someone that they knew was a trusted adult asking them for help or advice on something, and just seeing them kind of gain that level of independence and empowerment was always like a really like, okay, here we go, there they are, it was always such a beautiful moment to see.
Hmm. Absolutely. So Sarah, we're gonna switch to you. Who were you before this trip?
Honestly, I feel like that's a better question for you 2 to share your insights into who I was before the trip.
Oh my gosh, I could go, I could, I'm like, you were my student, so I could just gush about you for
Yeah,
endless.
what was I like? I don't know. I guess, like, my adult brain doesn't really have salient words for what I was like at 15 years old.
Endlessly curious, just always like hungry to learn more, always like open to, you always wanted to push to know why, but always in a really like open way. I think of you as someone like the true definition of open learning stance, just really wanting to be like, okay, I need to know why, but I'm okay with you contradicting what I originally thought about this thing. And so to me, that was like, I remember Cheryl and I talking about this when you first showed interest, because originally we didn't know what levels, or we were figuring it out, but we knew you were like the perfect personality for this. We're like, it doesn't matter that she's taken it for a couple months. She is like the perfect personality for this.
Well, thank you all for believing in me and taking me with you.
So, what was your inspiration for deciding to join this trip? I only
Um,
took.
I think kind of like Ali said, like just the endless curiosity where it's like, wait, I can go to a different country and who knows what's gonna happen, but like I want to know. I'm nosy. Like let me go. FOMO maybe, I don't know.
That's great. Did you have any kind of? Do you have any recollection of that first, like stepping off that plane the first time? What was that like?
I was trying to think about that. I have a very vivid memory from being in the airport in Amsterdam because we went through customs, and I believe one of my lovely classmates said that we were going to Canada. And it was like, wait, why are the Americans who are going to Canada coming through Amsterdam? And it was just amazing. But so I have that, and then there's kind of a gap, but I do very vividly remember the first dinner that I had that night. And I fell asleep at dinner because it was so late. And they like covered me with blankets. And I'm just like passed out, jet lagged, like, you know, rapid Spanish that my textbooks did not quite prepare me for. It's just being fired in every direction. Hmm?
You kind of had a baptism by fire.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. But I feel like that's the only way. You just gotta jump in.
You do. You definitely do. And I think that's one of the things we always did when we got to Spain. I think we might have taken them to school to meet their host families
Mhm.
possibly, and
Yep.
then just did some kind of tourings to keep them awake. I
Yes.
feel like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Suitcases and all. Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, I want to talk a little bit about the power of student travel and how it builds confidence. I think it also builds independence and cultural awareness. Um, and just like what we're talking about now, we you got a chance to just jump right in and see something new. And I think one of the things that we did, we learned how to navigate the metro system. And I don't know, I believe with your host family, did you take the metro? Did you take the subway to school?
Mm, I don't think so. I think we just walked.
Oh, okay. Because I know everybody, just depended on where everybody lived. So I should probably step back a little bit and kind of explain a little bit about this program. So when we went on these trips, what we would do, we would match our students with the students in Spain. And then once we got to Spain, they would stay with those host families, and and kind of find out what it was like to experience daily life as in a different culture. And I think we stayed about 2 weeks. Is that right? About two
Mhm.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you got to kind of see what life would be like if this were your family. So we said goodbye to our students. The parents and the new families met them either at the airport or at school. I guess every trip was probably different.
Every trip
But
was. Yeah.
yeah, so we met the families. They went their own separate ways, and then we saw them at school the next day. And then we would meet at school, I think, every day and either stay in school or go on a field trip. And so those were our experiences. So the kids got a chance to see what life was really like through the eyes of their host families, their host siblings and things like that. So I just thought that was important to me. And we also had the same experience because we stayed with our host teachers. And Ali and I both took the subway. We took the metro to school every day, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think there were a couple of times we Ubered, but that was just, those are just special occasions, I think.
Yes, pure necessity.
Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, and so we got to see the we got a chance to see what it's really like to live in a different culture, and it's so funny. Just I really love taking the metro to school. I wished we had one that we could have taken. Ollie's like, no.
I, um, I have, I think it really depended on the day.
Mhm.
A lot of really unique aromas.
Mhm. That's true.
Yeah, that's so
That's true.
so
Yeah. I mean,
So yeah,
there's the downside to it. I guess what
but
I liked is just not having to drive.
well, and I really loved that I loved how easy it was to navigate. That I will say. I think by the second time we went, it was like, oh, this really isn't a big deal. I actually, there, it was like you knew you weren't gonna get lost. You know? Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, I think we could have even walked to school if we wanted to. That would have been a really long walk, but it's not impossible.
Like
wait, it would have
like
been
2 blocks.
long walk even by your standards?
That's why I said 2 blocks. Like 2 blocks. Like 2 blocks.
It would have been a long walk by my standards.
Oh
Oh.
no, no. Yes. Do your podcast listeners know about you and your 2 blocks? It's like 2 blocks away. You're notorious. It's 2 blocks.
I
No.
have not discussed that actually.
Okay.
That's not something we've discussed. I enjoy walking, I'm going to say. And it's, if you just take your mind off it, you'll get there. It's you have a destination, you just do it. And it's I don't know, I just enjoyed it cuz it's not something I was able to do at home like when we were teaching together, walking to school was just not an option.
Absolutely.
That wasn't something we could do and I wish we could have, that would have been great. But, that's just me. So, let me just shift gears a little bit. I'm going to start first with you as an educator, Ali. What is your perspective from watching those students, in real time? What was your take on that exchange program?
I mean, I think that you saw Sarah was a perfect example of this, where you saw someone's language just flourish.
Mhm.
And it felt like overnight. It obviously was not, but even just, I had the opportunity to then I think I taught her several years after that. Poor Sarah. We were together for a very long time. Um,
Yeah, I mean, you're the only Spanish teacher I had in high school.
yeah. So we're in it. We were in it together. How lucky was that? Um, but it was amazing to see, like, the evolution of the language for her, just how quickly she acquired the language, like her I mean, it was just and it wasn't just her, obviously, it was all the students, but really, I think I think at that for that trip, she was our only Spanish 1 student.
Because I was going to say, I think I
So,
remembered that. And I thought,
yes.
was, I remember thinking, wow, she's picking up on this really very fast.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, but, I think in other trips, we saw that happen over and over again, where you're just like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Sarah's an exceptional student, and her acquisition of language is like, I mean, my gosh, we should all be so lucky. She's amazing. But it was really cool. You saw it at every level, but especially students in 1 and 2, where you're just like, wow, this is incredible to see how quickly you're acquiring it. And I also think that it really depended on the child. How many risks were they going to take in regards to language? I think it helped a lot that you and I, Cheryl, um, are lifelong learners.
Oh, yeah.
And we had the opportunity to model struggling to communicate what we needed. And I think you and I were not shy about being like, you know what, I really don't know what that word is, or like, Loida and Victor, I don't actually know what you just said to me. Can you help me?
Yes.
And so I think it was cool to see students try more and more and more and put themselves out there more and more.
There was a lot of humble pie. Absolutely.
Mhm. Mhm.
And but that's what being an educator and a learner is because
Yeah.
I always say that I'm a lifelong learner because you can't stop learning. There's just no way around it.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, I want to ask you, your perspective as a student discovering your voice abroad. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think it started before we even got to Spain because I believe originally when you designed the trip, you said that it had to be sophomores and like above going. And I begged and begged and begged.
I'm
And
glad you did.
I feel like maybe I wrote an essay about why I could handle it or like I don't yeah.
Yeah.
So I was 15 where everyone else was 16 or older. And um I think it's like you said, I'm very curious and lifelong learner, but I also just like to get into misfit and nonsense. So I was like, well, I want to go and I can do this and kind of like a stubborn mentality towards it. Like, what do you mean that I can't go? Because I've only been learning Spanish for 6 months. um, but also I think it like knowing that you took a chance with my maturity and my language skills and all the things, I really didn't wanna let you guys down. So, like, your 2 blocks, I was like, "Okay, it's gonna be fine," as I'm, like, cursing you in my head. So, "Don't slow down. Don't be the one that needs to stop because you're not even supposed to be here." But, I do remember very vividly again, like, Ale, your thinking face is when you put your finger on your nose and you push it down like this. And I remember seeing you do that a lot in Madrid. And I was like, "Okay, it's not just me where my brain is getting tired because 'cause I'm like, "What?" But, you just keep going and build on your skills.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially because how often you think to yourself, the Spanish that you learn, that universal Spanish versus the Spanish that a madrileño uses, even compared to someone in Catalunya, right? Like, it's not there's so many different, like, nuances there, cultural, but also just genuine nuances there that, like, you don't I never thought of, and yeah, Cheryl is right, humble pie, delish,
Unlocked.
delish.
Says, "Give me more. Yum, 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 yum."
Yep, yep.
I feel like to this day, whenever I'm gonna use my Spanish for a particular thing, I'm like, "Do not say estoy embarazada." It's just like in my head.
Unless you are.
Right, right.
Right.
Well, I just want to take a quick moment to talk to the viewers out there and say that if you are enjoying this conversation, please don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode of Cheryl's Travel Blueprint. We would love to have you on all of our conversations. So just keep that in mind. As I said earlier, every student deserves a chance to see the world. So make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you'll learn more about what we're doing and you'll never miss an episode. And you'll be the first to hear updates about how you can support Youth Exchange Collective. So let's move on to why we created Youth Exchange Collective. As I mentioned earlier, the gap we saw between people that were able to take the trips and others was just kind of becoming difficult for some families. And so our mission at Youth Exchange Collective is accessibility. We want to reduce cost barriers for students. We want to create equity and open doors for students from all backgrounds. And we want to reinforce language learning, cultural awareness, and global citizenship. Our vision is to give scholarships to students that are deserving, form teacher partnerships as well. We want to have fundraising opportunities and cultural prep resources. And hopefully, we'll have some mentorship from students like Sarah. And just so you all know, Sarah and Ale are both on the board of Youth Exchange Collective. So that's why I've invited them to talk to us today. So, what about when students come home? Let's talk a little bit about that. Um, And I don't know who wants to go first about this, but like the long-term effects of the immersion program, can you get kind of think about what that I think Sarah, you probably would be the best to answer
Okay.
because you were a recipient of an exchange program.
Times 2, right? I think I went with you all 2 years in a row.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or was it staggered?
I'm getting old. I think it
It's
was 2 years.
it was was it 2 years? It was staggered the first time. I think there was one other time, but you also hosted. You also
Right,
hosted.
yeah. So I hung around this year. I got
Full career, basically.
yeah, it was the best part of high school, hands down.
It's my favorite part too.
Yeah, I think coming home, I mean, this was 16 years ago for me, right? And I still find ways to continue to process these experiences and the ways that they shape my everyday life. I just took a new position with the organization that I work for. My new title is Director of Innovation, and all of that confidence comes from traveling abroad and not knowing what was going to happen, but knowing that it was going to be okay and being safe to continue to speak even when my grammar fell apart like a Lego tower. Like, just um learning that that main character energy can be you. You do get to go on the trips, you do get to learn, you do get to steer your learning and your story. And I think about those trips every day.
That makes me so happy, because just, that to me, I don't know. I don't know if I have the words to describe, that was our goal, having students come back with more than just souvenirs from a country. Because before we did the exchange program, I had led tours. And Ali, I don't know if you had ever, I think you had too, right?
Yeah.
Programs where you just do, I don't even know how to describe those kinds of trips. I call them catalog tours,
Mhm.
where you just, it's kind of like being on a death march. You stay in a hotel, and I'm not putting it down. It has its place. There's nothing wrong with it, but just when you do those kinds of trips, you don't get to meet someone in a meaningful way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot about I had the opportunity to do it twice before we did this. Um, and to your point, there is absolutely a time and place for it. But I remember the second time going and it really hitting me that I didn't hear a child use Spanish once.
Right.
We were a week into it and I hadn't heard him speak Spanish once. And I thought, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? I appreciate you're getting to see cathedrals. That's great. You're getting to see artwork. That's amazing. Like there is like a level of cultural immersion, but you're never once using the language. And I just thought to myself, like, what a missed opportunity. So yeah.
I think those trips are safe in a different kind of a way.
Mm.
And when I say safe, I mean they don't make you push your boundaries the way I would like to see. And that was the thing that, and then when kids came back from those trips, just like with Sarah, what you're saying, you still have an impact. It's impacting you today.
Mhm.
Um, those other trips, you might think about them and say, but you can't really say you've been someplace in a way, because it's just like, oh, I did this, and then it's just over, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know. That was just the impression that I got. And the difference in the response from students. And then, and like you have been back how many times to see your host family? And
I've been back 3 times, and then the gentleman that I hosted here came to my wedding. So,
wow.
yeah.
And see, that's why we do what we do,
Absolutely.
That's just everything to me.
Yep. So I went to, like, my host little brother's wedding, and then, the second time I went, the host got married, and then the other pair came here. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's generational.
Mhm.
So that's never gonna leave.
Yeah, like, they know my kids, I know theirs.
Mhm.
It's everything.
And I feel like Ali and I can speak to that as well. I think we've had the same kind of
Mhm.
relationship with I don't with our friends, staying with them, going back and forth, visiting them, not just with students, but on our own, and getting the chance to just really feel like we're part of their families.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely. It's a gift.
and I just yeah, that's and I just think that the world would just be a better place if everybody had to do this. That's just my 2 cents. Um, so I think we're going to talk a little bit about how listeners can support the mission. Um, Things that listeners can do if they want to help Youth Exchange Collective get off the ground. They can donate, sponsor students, share information about Youth Exchange Collective with schools, families, and community partners, volunteer for events as they come up, and follow and support us on social media. We are launching a website. I'll put it in the show notes, and you'll be able to actually go there and learn more about it. Um, and as far as destinations being considered, when it comes to Youth Exchange Collective, um, I would say that people that are interested in having uh, an exchange experience, we're going to have an application form. I don't think that there's a destination that I wouldn't consider, as long as it's obviously. I think anytime you can travel, you're learning something. So um, I just wanted to share that information with everyone. So there's lots of opportunities out there for teachers, for donors, and community members, and that's what the hope is, that we can get a movement going. So, any last um, reflections that you guys would share about something that really touched you, or just something you want to share about your exchange experience?
I'm not sure like who I would be without those trips because going forward and for the last 16 years, I no matter what life has brought me to, I have been able to be like, well, I basically got dropped off in Madrid at 15 and it was fine. Like it'll be okay. I'll figure it out.
There you go.
I I think for me, it's really just gratitude. Like so grateful to our host families. So grateful to like the students and their families for trusting us. So grateful to Loida and Victor. Like truly, there's so much gratitude there. Um, because it's incredible that we played a small role in this. I think you and I, Cheryl, we poured our hearts into making it really meaningful for students. But I think students also really trusted us so deeply and were so brave with it. And I'm just so incredibly grateful that we had the privilege to play a small role in that with them. That's such a gift.
Absolutely. I feel like this was, and I'm not exaggerating, I feel like this was the highlight of my career, being able to do this. And just talking to Sarah and other students like her who got a chance to do this, it reinforces the importance, the fact that we were right about doing this, that we did a good thing. And it just makes me so happy and proud. Sarah, you just have no idea how proud we are,
Yes.
and your classmates, for trusting us to do this.
So proud. I'm a crier, Sarah. So I'm taking everything
Do
me
it.
out to be like, "Ooh."
Don't worry. I'm a crier now too. I wasn't then, but I have people with crier. But yeah, I mean, all the other classmates that came with, I mean, they're all doing really incredible things.
Mhm.
And I would venture to say that a lot of that confidence comes from these experiences. So thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if this episode inspired you, I want you to, as I said earlier, I want you to definitely consider subscribing so you can follow along with all of the goings on at Youth Exchange Collective and Cheryl's Travel Blueprint. Imagine what one of these trips could do for a student. I want you to follow Youth Exchange Collective, share the mission, or consider becoming a supporter. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you can follow our journey as we help the next generation to see the world. And thank you both for joining us. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.